remember when you got your start with podcasting, because like it was around the time that I started doing my, my first incursions into the Linux world, if you will. I remember when I was getting into it and I was listening to you and Chris, and I was like, this is awesome. Like there's this huge community of people, and
it was big.
It was enormous, and I was like so impressed by it. And like Linux Action Show and TechSnap later were like two of the primary reasons that I stuck with Linux,
Yeah.
And
yeah, I hear that a bit.
And it's like, I can't understate how important it was that we that show existed when it did, because it really helped me get my foothold on Linux. I'm wondering like what like inspired you to be doing that at the time.
You want the actual story, or like you want the actual one with the warts and everything, or or do you want the sanitized? We wanted to help freedom story. Either one's okay.
I'm curious, like the real story.
All right, so Linux Action Show, just to kind of set the stage for this, during a narrow window of time of like just a couple of years, was just insanely big. Its listener base dropped off crazy fast at one point, and it grew out of nothing. Like we went from 0 to our first 1,000 listeners in the first like 2 weeks or so, and then I mean our numbers just got insanely huge for a while. But what got us to there was that we were Mac users. That's what got us there. Chris, who started the show, and I, along with another friend we had at the time, we're all Mac users. I was kind of like I did a little bit of everything. Like at home, I had a Mac machine, I had a Linux machine, I had a Windows machine, I had a BIOS machine. Like I had a bunch of different random rigs. And back, if you remember, during that time, Apple released GarageBand and an iSight web camera. This was kind of a new thing back then. It was kind of cool. It was right 2005, 2006. And they released that. And me and Chris and our other buddy, we kind of look at each other and be like, we're like wicked entertaining and whatnot. We're gonna do podcasts.
Yeah.
So we all buy this little iSight camera, and we're gonna record a podcast in GarageBand that way. They had this feature in Apple's GarageBand where you could connect to other people running GarageBand or iSight or whatever, and it would put everyone on their own little audio channel, so it would make podcasting easy. What they didn't tell you is that the microphone in that iSight sucked so bad. It made the worst audio ever. So we all got that, and we realized, wait, this is terrible. And so we quickly ditched that, and then I spent a ridiculous amount of my own money because I'm stupid. And I bought a mixer board, microphones, mic stands, audio capture devices, everything. And I created a little like mini living room studio that we used to like bring around to each other's houses. And we started doing a podcast that had no direction, that had no real topic. We called it Casta Blasta. And I don't remember who named that show, but I feel like that person made a profound mistake. And sometimes we talked about comic books. Sometimes we talked about like random news. We made horribly off-color jokes. It was not a good show. Like we produced maybe 30 or 40 episodes of it. And of them, I'd say 4 were golden and the rest were total garbage. And so we're doing that. And while that's happening, and we're just doing it for fun, while that's happening, there's this website, this Macintosh website that called Res Excellence, which isn't going to mean a lot to non-Mac users. But for long-term, like old classic Mac users from like the 1990s, that website was like the king of modifying a Macintosh and like tweaking it, making it look different and things like that. So anyway, so this website was going offline because, they hadn't made money off of it in years. And they're like, the hell with it. We're just going to pull the plug. And I knew one of the guys that was working on it. And he's like, we're just done. We're just going to turn it off at the end of the month. We're not going to say anything because we don't want to make a big deal about it. We're just going to turn it off. And we're like, no, dude, there's so much good stuff. It was filled with tutorials and all this other stuff. We're like, look, you know what? We'll take it over. We don't want to like publish a website, but you know, we'll pay the hosting fees and we'll put it on one of our servers that we've got running for our podcast anyway, and that way people can like look through the archives. So we did that, and the Macintosh community blamed us for the website not getting updated anymore because now we were taking it over, and people got so mad we got death threats. No joke. The response was off the charts. I'm like, dude, all we were trying to do was make it so this website didn't spontaneously turn off at the end of the month because the old friggin' webmaster wasn't even going to tell you about it. And then that kept going on. It kept getting worse and worse and worse. And we're like, dude, this community is just turning crappy. Like, everyone's just being mean to each other, and like, we're not really liking the direction Apple's going anyway. We need a new home. We need to find somewhere else to be. And so I'm like, you know what? I don't want to be doing Windows stuff all the time, and I'm tired of doing all this Mac stuff. And well, BIOS is dead, and so we kind of turned to Linux. And so we started using Linux more and more. And then instead of doing this terrible podcast, we started doing the Linux Action Show, and we kind of just pivoted over with Chris and I to focus on that. And that's where it all started, in part just as a hobbyist thing to give us a reason to get together and talk about Linux once a week, to kind of help each other in our Linuxy questy voyage. And it worked out really well. The show kind of exploded, but that's how we got there. We got there because we did a terribly off-color, terrible podcast on a Macintosh, and then a bunch of Mac users yelled at us long enough that we started using Linux and made a Linux podcast. That's literally how that show started.
That's really awesome.
I don't know if it's awesome. It's just the way it was. It happened. And I'm glad it did. It was a great experience to have gone through. And, you know, the show was great when it was great.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, you know, I don't know if I told you this, but I had a Google TV that had like an RSS ability.
Yeah.
And I was subscribed to your RSS feeds, and I watched every single episode.
Nice.
Like anytime anything would get released, I watched it. And I remember like when you left the Linux Action Show, I was just like, I'm kind of done with this. Like, the dynamic changed, you know, the dynamic was just different.
Well, yeah, that show went through a lot of ups and downs. I got to give kudos to my former co-host for keeping the show going.
Yeah, definitely.
As long as he did. He deserves mad props for that. We really don't keep in contact anymore. But he deserves mad props for keeping it going. I know the show's dead now, but at its height, I mean, it was the most listened to, you know, Linuxy podcast type thing by a long shot.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. It allowed us to actually make some pretty significant, you know, impacts in the Linux world, which was neat. I mean, I didn't expect that we'd be able to do that. And honestly, I don't think either Chris or I realized until later that we were having an impact.
Yeah.
So I think if we'd had realized that we were having an impact in that way, that people were actually making decisions about using or not using things, about working on various projects, about the direction projects were taking, I think we probably would have treated it with a little bit more reverence.
Right.
But, you know, hindsight, 2020, I guess.
Well, I completely understand that, because it's like there have been times, like when I went to System 76, like the first time I went to meet them, I got to meet people who watched my show, and they were like, I really like what you do. And I've always treated my channel with reverence, right? But like I never really thought that people, like real people, were actually watching until I met them. You know, because
it's weird, right?
It's so weird, because it's like
so weird.
I live in this tiny town in a backwoods area that where you can't even get like 10 megabit DSL. Like nobody's techie around here at all. And so, you know, when I tell people, oh yeah, I do YouTube, they're like, oh, like Jake Paul? And I'm like, no, like I talk about technology.
Yeah, like exactly. More like Ryan Toy's review. That's how I
Yeah. And it's like, but the thing is, it's like, I don't, like, I've run into maybe two people who like had actually seen my show in real life here in Maine. And it's like, that's not, it never really registered that there were actually people watching.
you've got to get out to some of the Linux conferences,
Yeah.
man. Because people know you. People, I mean, you've become a known thing now. You're like a dude, you know. There's something about it. You know, we live in our own little like weird little bubbles, and no one around us knows. And like I've got me and my family here. My family doesn't watch my shows, right? They get enough daddy and their husband all the time. They don't need to watch my random ramblings. But it blows my mind still when I go to conferences and people want to take their picture or get an autograph. And it's like, why? Like, literally, my daughter actually asked someone that once. I took her to Linux Fest Northwest one year. And we're up there, and it's kind of a general thing where usually once or twice during the conference, I'll have a period of time where people kind of come up and you know, do like selfies with me. Like we'll do some pictures and autographs and whatnot. And my daughter was there. She was, I don't know if she was 6 probably at the time. And she was looking at them like, why are you so stupid? Like, and so someone asks her something like, you know, like about me. And she just kind of looks at me. And she's like, he's just my dad.
Yeah,
like he's not that interesting. He just talks all the time at home. Like it's not that fun to listen to. It's fun, man.
Yeah.
But you got to get out to the conferences. You got to get out to them. Come on out with me during the next round of them.
Yeah,
and because it helps you understand the impact you're making. You know, when you've got the room full of people that mostly watch your shows, it's kind of it's both. It gives you a big head and is humbling, like all at the same time. It's a very confusing emotional experience. It is very odd.
I have plans to go to Linux Fest Northwest next year.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
You do have plans. That's right.
Yeah, I do.
We can't talk about that yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
But
but everyone listening, both me and Gardiner will be at Linux Fest Northwest next April, I believe.
Yeah. I'm super duper excited. I've never been to a Linux convention ever. I've been to a Star Trek convention, but never a Linux convention.
Yeah, same. I've been to Star Trek conventions too. But yeah, you got to get out to them.
I know.
It's such a big deal. It's almost life changing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I've been to System 76 twice, and the first time I went, I was as far as I was concerned, nobody. I had maybe 9,000 subscribers on YouTube, you know, which is nothing to, you know, that's nothing to shake a stick at. That's one of my favorite sayings, by the way. But it's like,
well, you know, you have to shake the stick sometimes.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And some people knew who I was, right? Like the people that worked there obviously knew who I was, but like there were like 2 or 3 people who were like, "Hey, I like your stuff. You do a good job." And I'm like, "Thank you." Actually, that's when I met Ryan Sipes. Fun fact.
Good guy.
Very good guy. Great
Currently
guy.
the community manager over at Thunderbird. Good dude.
Thunderbird, absolutely. And then, but then I went out to the second time, and that's when I felt like it was a life-changing experience for me, because like I finally felt like, holy crap, here's my tribe. Like these are my people, you know? Like I
found your people, dude.
Yeah, I walked into the room and like there were like people who worked there were all like, "He's here again." I loved that. And this is not like an ego thing. Like this is like this was
it's
awesome.
Finding your people. It's sort of like, it's like Norm on Cheers. You know what I mean? There's something when you walk in and everyone knows your name. It is like, these are my people. I'm home. It doesn't mean you're like some like big shot. It just means they're your people. They know you. You know them, and that's awesome.
Right.
It is. It's meaningful. Absolutely, man.
It's really important to have that in your life. I mean, if you don't have like that, then you know you feel lost, honestly. And for a long time I did, and it's like, I just felt like I was, you know, people were watching the show, but I felt like I was toiling in obscurity, you know. But now I feel like, now I appreciate the fact that like, people around here don't watch my show, you know, and I can go out and nobody knows who I am. But then I can go to like a place, and the right place, and there will be people who I can just really like off the bat just engage with and have a great conversation with. And
Right.
I'm really excited to go to Linux Fest. Holy crap.
It's nice. It is. Honestly, it is nice. Where I live right now is kind of a little bit of a tech hub in the Pacific Northwest. And so with this spot, I have a lot of fans that live in the same town as me.
Yeah.
So I don't have to really worry about it too much because they're all really, really cool. Like I've yet to come across a stalkery fan,
Right.
but like everyone's like really cool. But I'll run across them. Like I'll go out to the grocery store or go out to dinner, and probably about twice a week there'll be someone who's like a fan I hadn't met before, and we'll talk for a minute or two. By the way, if you ever do just see me on the street, just talk. Don't be weird. Don't just stand at a weird distance and stare. Just come on over and say, hey, I know you, and I'll be like, hey, I don't know you, and then we'll fist bump. It'll be rad.
Nice.
But yeah, it is kind of. I'm lucky in that I guess we're both lucky in that we can walk around, but yet we make shows. It's a weird thing. Like we're not by any stretch of the imagination famous. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah, not at
like
all.
you and I, like there's like A-list celebrities and there's like B-list celebrities. We're like Q-list celebrities. You know what I mean? We're like
Yeah.
we're not on any real celebrity list. But when
No.
you go to a Linux convention, we're at the very least B-list celebrities all of a sudden.
Right.
At a Linux convention. That's like the only place in the world where we hit that level.
Right.
And it is a ton of fun because the fans are so cool. Like
Yeah.
if they weren't cool, like it would be just a nightmare. But they're really cool. Like everyone treats it cool. Like I've only had bathroom incidents a few times. It's really fun. I love it.
Yeah. I can't wait to go. It's going to be great.
Right?
I have
Don't worry. You'll have a bathroom moment. You'll
what
have
is a
that.
bathroom? I don't know what that means.
When you have a fan in the bathroom with you.
Oh.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
that's a particular moment. There's I've talked about this with a couple of the other, I don't know what the right word is because we're not tech celebrities even. We're just known individuals in the Linux world, right?
Linux pundits.
Yeah, there we go. Linux talking head people. But anyway, the more known you are, the more likely it is that people will notice that you're taking a bathroom siesta next to them, or a stall next to them. And most people are really cool about it. But occasionally people want to strike up conversations or whatnot. It gets a little awkward, but it's fun. It's almost like a rite of passage. It's like an initiation into okay, well, that's what going to conferences is like now. I remember this was probably about 2 years ago. I was at a conference. Do you know who John Hall is? A Mad Dog?
The name sounds familiar.
Old developer. When we talk about neckbeards, John Mad Dog Hall is like the epitome of neckbeards, right?
Okay.
So anyway, but he and I were at the same convention. I want to say this might have been Linux Fest Northwest, but I'm not even 100% certain. Anyway, he and I were staying at the same hotel, and both he and I were kind of walking into the hotel. We look at each other because we both know each other, and from what each other does, and we both give each other this nod, like, hey man, you tired? Yeah, you tired? I'm tired too. And we both get on the elevator, and there's a bunch of other people on the elevator, and all of the people on the elevator knew who me and Mad Dog were, because Mad Dog was like keynoting the event or had a big session, and I was doing Linux Sucks or something that year, and so we would do the thing, and some of them were kind of nervous. One of them wanted a picture with us, and it was cool. And then they all the rest of the people get off the elevator, and it's as the elevator door closes and it's just me and Mad Dog sitting in the elevator, we both at the same time go, and okay, we can let our gut out a little bit. If I could, I'd unbutton the top button on my jeans. Like, oh, thank God. Now I can just totally relax. Like the fans are totally awesome. But once when you start to get to know some of these people who have like that same sort of like thing at conferences, it's kind of fun just seeing them relax around each other. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about anymore.
What you just heard is an excerpt of the Off Topical podcast. You can head over to offtopical.net and subscribe right now. The feed is freely available, and it's a lot of fun. So why don't you just come over and hit that subscribe button? There's no real subscribe button. You got to use like an app or something. Anyway, podcast. Come get it.